Hey there, fellow travelers. Mark here with Wolters World, and we're in Bruges, Belgium, one of my favorite little towns to check out in Europe. And what we have for you today, this is for American tourists that are coming to Europe. Not European tourists coming to Europe, but American tourists coming to Europe. And what we have for you are 11 things that will shock Americans about coming to Europe. Now, let's get started. The first thing, you get off the plane, you get off the train, you get whatever, what do you need? The toilet. And that's the first thing that'll shock you when you come to Europe. If you go to Germany in some places, there's like an old lady sitting at the toilet waiting for you to give her money. You're like, what is this old lady doing here? Yes, there are toilet women that you do pay to go into the toilets, which leads into the fact that in some places you actually do have to pay to use the toilet in Europe. And you'll see some of the restaurants will say, you know, clients only and things like that. Now, usually in restaurants you're okay, but in train stations, bus stations, things like that, they might have you pay to use the toilet. So what we like to do is just keep some coins in your pocket. 50 cents usually covers it, but it'll just help you be ready. So in case you do need to go, you're ready to go, okay? Now, it's not everywhere in Europe, but that's one thing you'll see. Germany, you gotta pay. You know, Austria in the stations, you gotta pay. So that's the first thing that'll shock you, is your toilet experience. Also, is some places, maybe Italy or in Eastern Europe, you'll have holes in the ground for a toilet. Now, it's not a hole as in like they dig a hole and poop there. It's a porcelain hole where you put your feet like stirrups and you do your business. I've yet to figure out exactly how it works, but it's basically a hole in the ground. So that might shock you. Now, the second thing that might shock you is the service. Now, in the US, you're used to everyone being so friendly and nice and helpful. And yes, how can I help you? In Europe, you do not have that how can I help you attitude, because there's not really much tipping here in Europe. We have a video talking about tipping around Europe, and you'll see not too many places do it, and if they do, it's like 5 or 10%. For example, here in Belgium, you don't tip. They get a good wage, and service sucks. So get used to crappy service. So what I recommend for you is when the waitress comes, you order your drinks and food right away. None of this, oh, let me think about it. No. Figure out right away and order your drinks and your food as soon as you can, because you never know when they're going to come. And when they bring your bill, a lot of times you will pay on the spot, okay? Don't wait for them to come back. And also, for my American friends, cash is king in Europe. Yes, a lot of places will take credit card, but cash is usually king, okay? So you're safer with that. So just be prepared for not the friendliest service, order as soon as you can, and have cash on hand, okay? So that's the second thing that will surprise you. The service quality or lack of service quality in Europe. It can be professional, but not so friendly. The third thing that'll shock you about Europe is all the languages they speak here. Yes, every country you go to, yes, they pretty much have a different language. Some countries have two. Belgium, they have Flemish, which is like Dutch, and French. Wow, wait, 2 in 1 language. Germany, yes, they speak German. Portugal, they speak Portuguese. And so there are a lot of languages here, and you'll probably meet Europeans that speak 4 or 5 languages, and that's kind of normal. The thing is, they might not speak English, so don't get upset. I'm always amazed at tourists that get really mad when, you know, people don't speak English. I'm like, guys, there's lots of languages out here. I mean, I dated a girl when I was in Finland. She spoke Finnish, Swedish, Russian, German, and French, but didn't speak English. And I'm like, well, you know, that's pretty cool. She speaks all those things. And so Americans are kind of shocked at all the languages they have, because in the US, if you speak 2 languages, oh my God, you're some kind of freak, okay? So be prepared that people will speak a lot of languages, but they also might not speak English. So what you should do before you go there, we have videos, 10 simple phrases for tourists to teach you how to say please and thank you and I want, so you can get things better, because people want to be helpful here, but just know that if you know the local language or a few words, it'll make it a lot easier. So that will shock you. The lack of English or lots of other languages that you might need to use, okay, when you're here. The fourth thing you might want to, that might shock you about here is, guys, Europe isn't just one country. You know, a lot of people, you know, they say, oh, I went to London, I went to Europe. No, no, no. Belgium is different than Holland. Holland is different than Spain. Spain is different than Poland. All of these countries have different cultures, and yes, different languages, different ways they eat, different things they eat. And it's different cultures everywhere you go really make Europe fantastic. So yes, it may shock you that when you go to France, people are kind of put off when you don't speak French. But here in Holland, they don't expect you to speak Dutch or Flemish or French or anything. So just be ready for all the differences in cultures you do have here when you come, whether it's the time you eat. Like in Portugal, the restaurants are closed from 3 to 7. Well, they're open, but the kitchens aren't open, so you can't order food from 3 to 7. So just be prepared for those things, or like the siesta in Spain, or in Greece, where things close in the afternoon. So these kind of cultural differences, they will shock you. The fifth thing that will shock you about coming to Europe are the beds in the hotel. Now, you know, if you go to the hotels in the US, you get a double room. You get 2 big double beds, right? You can put you and a family of 7 in that room. Here in Europe, if you get a double room, it's 2 single beds, like twin beds, okay? And they're not gonna let you bring your whole family with you. If it's you and your wife and 2 kids, you gotta let them know, because you're gonna have to get a triple or something like that, because the rooms aren't as big. And the worst part is, if you get a double, it's 2 single beds pushed together with a crack. I can't tell you how many times we've lost a kid or myself in that crack at night, so just be prepared for that. The crack in the bed, oh, it's just so annoying, okay? The 6th thing that will shock you about coming to Europe is the coins. The coins actually mean something here. In the US, you have pennies and dimes and quarters, and you just throw them away. You give them to people, all kinds of things. Here, I see tourists giving coins to beggars. They don't realize they give a €2 coin. That's like $2.60 in 1 coin. So here, the coins are actually worth something. So save them, use them, pay with them. Don't just throw them away, okay? Because coins here actually are worth something. Also, with the coins, kind of comes to the 7th thing that will shock you about Europe, is a number of beggars you will actually see on the streets. Now, it's not everywhere, but if you go to Spain or France or Italy, you'll see a lot of kids on the street begging, okay? And the thing is, you'll see them sitting with their mom. Sometimes they're like sleeping or drugged or something like that. And like, please, let me have some money, give me some food. And you'll see all these beggars. And you know, you hear in the news in the US, oh, Europe is so, you know, progressive and everyone's equal here. Guys, it's not the way it is. There's a lot of beggars here. I mean, not tons, but you will see them. But the one that will shock you are the number of children beggars you will see in places like Paris or Brussels, okay? So just be ready for that. And a lot of times those beggars, those kid beggars, they're working with other people to rob people and things like that. So do not give to beggars, okay? Don't give. That's a bad idea. So the 8th thing that will shock you, which is a pleasant shock when you come to Europe, is public transportation. Now in the US, public transportation means your buddy gives you a ride. Here in Europe, there's great public transportation within the cities with metros and trams and buses. Also between cities with trains going from Paris to Berlin or Paris to Lyon or wherever. You can get anywhere in Europe and you never have to have a car. Whereas in the US, I mean, you need a car for everything because public transport sucks. So if you're planning your trip to Europe, realize you can use the trains and the public transport all the time. You do not need to rent a car, okay? The 9th thing that will shock you about Europe is how worldly the people actually are here. I mean, the thing is, they're living with dozens of other countries within hours of them, so of course they have a lot of mixed cultures and cultural experiences and things like that, whereas in the US we have this huge country that's one country. In Europe, it's about the same size, but there's 30 countries there, okay? So you meet people that are very worldly, they'll know what's going on in the US and in China and things like that, and it's kind of crazy. You're like, wow, you know my news better than I do. So before you come, I really recommend read up on the news in Europe, read up on the news around the world and in the US, so you can talk to the locals about the stuff that goes on here. Because it is kind of cool how you can have these, you know, kind of intellectual conversations with random people you meet on the street. The 10th thing that will shock you, especially for Americans, is in the US, a meal, when we go out to eat, we're thinking 15 to 30 minutes and I'm done. No, in Europe, a meal means a meal. You sit down, it takes hours in some places to eat. In Portugal, lunch, well, of course it's 2 hours. Dinner, 3 or 4 hours. And I see a lot of tourists get really upset, like, come on, I want to get my food, come on, let's go. Guys, realize when you come to Europe, eating is an experience. It's not food here, it's cuisine, okay? So enjoy it and enjoy that experience. That's why you sit on the market squares, you sit in the cafes, and you take it all in with your people watching and taking in that culture, because it is very different than the US where it's, hey, grab your McDonald's and go. Now the thing is, you might also be shocked to see how many McDonald's, Burger Kings, Subways, and Starbucks there actually are in Europe, okay? So it's not like they just do eating hot cuisine all the time. Yes, you go to McDonald's, it's not all Americans, it's Germans, it's Italians, it's all kinds of stuff. And the 11th thing that'll shock you about when you come to Europe is how close everything is. Literally, from where I am right now, 45 minutes, I'm in France. 45 minutes, I'm in Holland. I mean, what the hell? I mean, it's so easy to go all these places. So when you come, you're not just usually going to stay in one country. You'll go to multiple countries, because it's not like going from Illinois to Indiana, which is, you don't even notice the difference. Here you go across well, not everything changes, but a lot of stuff changes, and the culture, the people, the food, and it is fantastic. So those are 11 things that might shock American tourists when they come to Europe. Now, I realize there'll be some haters on here, Europeans and Americans and stuff like that, but just remember, this video is for people for their first time heading to Europe, some things they might want to know before they go. So if you have some things that might shock Americans about coming to Europe, please leave in the comment section below. And if you think I'm only picking on Europe, don't worry. We have 10 things that'll shock you about going to China, also 10 things that'll shock talk to you about coming to America. So it's all on our website at woltersworld.com. We're also on Twitter and Facebook, and we appreciate your likes and subscriptions. And bye from Bruges, Belgium, one of my favorite towns in Europe to go check out. Bye.